Hey folks, it's Nick, and today we're going to talk about something that you have probably used every day if you've been growing for any amount of time, but probably have never actually even thought about. And honestly, it's not something I ever thought about because I used to just go get any old sprayer off the shelf and use it until I lost it, or I broke it, or I lost it again. But then recently we brought on this line from Quazar, and Julian Sandoval, who runs our product development, he's actually had one of these for the last few years, and his is not this color anymore because he's left it outside and has abused it heavily over the years, but he has had a lot of experience in showing me the difference between a good sprayer and a bad sprayer, and that's what I'm going to hope to do for you today. So just know that as you go through Bootstrap Farmer and you're looking for a sprayer, we do have all this stuff from Quazar that we're going to get into, but we also have this more economy pump sprayer, and we're going to show you the differences very briefly on this. More of a baseline of how you should judge all sprayers if you're not going to be purchasing through us. We just want you to have the information. So this is like if you went to a big box store or hardware store or even a dollar store and they had a pump sprayer, this is likely to be what you're going to get. And I would say there is a little bit of a difference because this does have a little bit of upgraded features that you're not going to get in the most basic of basic economies, so you're still going to be better off. And that this does have a brass nozzle and the plunger is metal and not plastic. So while we have this opened up, I want to show you one of the key features that makes Quazar especially unique in the industry, and that the straw, the uptake tube, for instance, this is the part that's going to give you pressure, but this is the part that's actually going to be in the liquid or the solution to bring that stuff up through the nozzle. Now if you notice, if you turn it upside down, it's rigid, it stays straight. So what that means is when this is tipped upside down and the water comes here, all you're going to be doing is sucking air. So if we take the top off of this one, you'll see that we have a weighted brass pre-filter, which that's another great thing about Quazar is everything has this little pre-filter on it. But because it's weighted, it's going to fall back into the solution as this is tipped upside down. But before we get to the rest of the features and go through the entire Quazar line, let's talk a little bit about sizing your pump sprayer. So up first is a 1/2 liter, 1 liter, and a 2 liter sprayer. And this is good especially for like house plants or spot treatments or things like that. The 1 liter, 2 liter, if you're going to start a tray of seeds or a tray of microgreens at a time and just need something to water those in, either once the seed is first put in or that daily watering and maintenance that you're going to have to do, this is a perfect size. And then we're getting into sizes like 6 liters and 15 liters. And just think about if you're having to spray an entire field, or perhaps you're using a herbicide or a natural herbicide to go around and take care of all your fence rows and around your hoop houses and things like that, having this much spray available to you so where you don't have to constantly take the backpack sprayer on, take it off. The 6 liter also has a strap so you can kind of bear that weight. But having to take this on and off, unscrew the lid, remeasure the thing all the time, if you're going to have to be doing a lot of spraying, kind of in bulk is the way I like to think of it, using these bigger ones, the backpack sprayer has both a manual pump version in which you're applying pressure with your hand, or a battery pack from a DeWalt or a Milwaukee set, plugs right in, and that's further going to save you some of that physical labor in the field. And so I can't speak for any sprayer that you're possibly going to go out and get, but the Quazar line is made from HDPE plastic, which is a good general plastic to use for pretty much anything in the gardening sector. Now, if you're going to be purchasing a sprayer for any other kind of spray applications, maybe like cleaning or other chemicals, go ahead and check into that and make sure that HDPE is going to be safe for those solutions. The other cool thing about Quazar is they have UV inhibitors built in, which means the plastic is not going to degrade over time. But I will say, looking at Julian's sprayer that he's had for the last few years, of course it's going to be faded because he left it out in the sun, just like we're all going to do. So because this is not a showpiece and this is a functional tool, you can expect a little bit of fading, as with anything that you leave out in the sun. The other thing that's great about Quazar is all of the nozzles are adjustable. So you can do a stream, or you can do a spray, or anything in between. If you have to spot treat weeds with a stream, we got you covered. If you want to spray a foliar or any type of compost tea or something like that, you can cover a broad area very fast. And some of the bigger units come with these shields that you can replace the nozzle with on either the backpack. So if you're having to go along and you want to protect the crops against drift, this is especially useful if you're doing a little bit of vinegar or any kind of herbicide like that, maybe some spot treatments of an ant bed or something, that you can use this shield without having to worry about chemical getting over plants that you don't want them on. Another feature to look for as you're shopping for sprayers is to make sure it has a pressure relief valve, and that does two things. Number one, at the end of the session, you can take the pressure off and therefore reducing the strain on the gaskets if they're not in use. Number two, when it comes time to empty and clean or possibly refill, taking that pressure off makes it much easier to unscrew the cap to get to the funnel. So here's another thing to point out. If we go back to the economy sprayer, you notice that it's just sitting on the tank itself, while the Quazar line has a nice whole different base that keeps the tank from touching the ground and getting scuffed up, and so it's not wearing out as quickly. Another cool feature to point out is the hand sprayers, you can just simply hold it, pump it up. But with the taller sprayers, you're going to be using both hands to really put some of that pressure on there, and so they have these little feet at the bottom so you can put your foot on there to help stabilize it as you're pumping it up, just like a bicycle pump. For our smaller houseplant or little spot treatment bottles that's, again, a half a liter or a full liter, one of the cool things that Quazar has done is have a double action trigger. So a lot of the times the cheaper sprayers, you pump it and it sprays, and then you have to almost reload. But with the Quazar, it sprays both on the pump in and on the release. And this is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of effort as you're doing your daily maintenance. The other cool thing about Quazar is every single line has these little windows in there, so you can really accurately see not only where the water is, but get a good measurement on there. With some of the economy models, that does have a kind of a translucent and see-through appearance, but it's not as easily read. So here's the other thing about these sprayers in particular. It's a good like upper middle step up between this and something like a stainless steel sprayer, which is going to be much higher the cost. And with Quazar, you get some of the professional features without the added expense of a stainless steel container. So it's more lightweight, and you still get all the professional features. And the other good thing about Quazar, one of the selling points that really helped us bring it on, is that there's a full line of replacement parts, from the gaskets to the nozzles to the full heads. And so if you have your tank and it's fine, but something happens, maybe an accident or gets left out or gets chewed on by an animal or something like that, you can just replace any of the parts. So in pretty much all the units, you have a series of filters and pre-filters that are going to help eliminate. And look, I've spent a lot of time filling up sprayers outside. I don't care what you do, the wind, the weather, just the inherent nature of being outside, little bits of debris and grass and branches and leaves are always going to be floating about, and you'll be surprised at how much this screen captures during the fill up in the solution mixing. And so what that's going to give you is you're not going to be sucking up debris, it's not going to get clogged in the nozzle, and it's not going to give you those uneven spray patterns that you'll get if you don't have a filter. The other good thing about the backpack sprayers is we do have this pressure nozzle. So a lot of times, if you have to calibrate your equipment for a set dosage of any type of chemical, whether that be a herbicide or fertilizer or anything like that, it's always good to know exactly how much you're putting on your crop. A, you're saving money. You may not be burning the plant with too much nitrogen or something to that effect. And so the nozzle is going to let you know how much chemical you're putting out on a given area once you calibrate the machine. And now I'm quickly going to tell you how to calibrate any piece of spray equipment. Let's say the bottom of this tub represented a certain amount of square feet. And then you can go to your chemical applicator and say, hey, there's this much liquid in the tank. You'll pump it up, and you're going to use the natural motion that you yourself would use this piece of equipment on over a certain percentage of property. So we have this tank, we have this designated test area. Before we do it with anything else, you just do this with water. You simply spray as if you were actually using it in the field during the application in which you would use it. Then you simply subtract the amount of liquid that you used during the test area, and you can go, hey, we used 1 ounces over 100 square feet. So a lot of times, whatever you're mixing is going to say use 0.5 ounces diluted for every 100 gallons. And from there, you can take that formula and extrapolate whatever chemical you need to put out over a certain area or over a certain linear foot, given the amount that you know you're going to be spraying because you did that test. So again, a very quick recap of that quick recap: square footage, how you're going to use the piece of equipment, the amount of liquid that used over that specific area. And again, if you're going to test, it's good to block out a driveway or something like that that you can measure. Spray the liquid out in water form. Don't waste any chemical or anything like that. But once that's done, it's kind of set. You'll do that for every different piece of equipment that you have. So again, let's recap and run down how you would pick a sprayer. Cheap economy model, If you're just starting out, want to save a little bit of money, just need to spot treat here and there, maybe something for the interns to use, there you go. We got you covered, and it's not the very basic of the basic, but it's enough to get the job done on a most day-to-day basis. If you're a solo operation, you want to buy once and not have to worry about it again, then you're going to go ahead and pick one of these Quazars and space it for either where it's going to be, the application, or the size it's going to be at. So house plants, indoor grows, 1 to 2 liter kind of area. We can go ahead and bump up to a 3 liter if we're going to be doing any spot treatments, especially if it's outside in the garden, or if we're in a propagation house and we have to water in a lot of trays all at once. And then you can move on up the line to the backpack sprayers if you're going to be doing fence lines or a lot of rows, or you're in an orchard, or you have a lot of cleaning to do, or you have an entire hoop house full of trays that you want to mist in daily without the big pressure of a water hose. And just think about not having to drag that hose around all the time. It's great to have a sprayer, and again, it's great to have multiple sizes and options. If you're going to be using like a compost tea and you're going to be using that day in and day out all the time, go ahead and get 2 sprayers, one to use for general use that you're going to clean out and sanitize every single time, and then one that you can use the same compost tea or organic supplement on the daily. All right, so if you have any other questions about any of these sprayers or anything that Bootstrap Farmer has, feel free to call us or email 7 days a week, or ask a question in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video.